let's feel into that for a moment. And thank you, Linda. Let's feel into that for a moment. This whole thing of a kind of a soul destiny. That from the moment you say no more, last lifetime, I'm done with the experiences, you've got the master not telling you what to do, it's not like a spirit guide or anything like that, but the master is keeping you on the path, keeping you from getting distracted, from going off the path. And sometimes it's very, very frustrating because you want your freedom. You want to think that you're making all the choices. You want to think that you can do whatever in the hell you want. But feel into this for a moment. In spite of that potential frustration, when you said, I'm done, this is it, time for realization, and the master, the wisdom moved in and has kept you from a tremendous amount of ultimate aches and pains, isn't that a beautiful thing? Isn't that truly beautiful? I go back to the video that we watched before. Isn't that truly beautiful? That you have this level of guidance and protection. I guess that would be even a better word, this level of protection to assure that you will have your realization, to assure that you'll have the integration of the master and the human. What a beautiful thing. It leads to a discussion about not spiritual, wrong word, Caldra. It leads to discussion about maturity. Maturity. Up to now, or up to relatively recently, you didn't have the maturity to do a lot of things. The maturity, and what happens in all of this, going from awakening into mastery, is the immaturity within you is exposed big time, and it hurts at times. That was one of the other things I thought potentially would come out when we were talking about levels of awareness. It's been pretty high on levels of realization lately. It's been showing up in your dreams. The immaturities are being exposed. The immaturity is basically a lack of wisdom. It's not a bad thing, it's just immature. Immaturity is a lack of or a limitation of perspective. And perception, being so narrow, so narrow in things that you're not feeling into all the different levels. You're not aware of everything that's really going on. That's my definition of immaturity. It goes back to the premise that there is no reality, there's no life, unless perception is present. Nothing exists unless consciousness is here. But consciousness or perception can come at many, many different levels. It's not an all or nothing. There can be very limited levels of perception, self-imposed, limited levels of perception, which I would call immature. So focused on just surviving, just so focused on the ego, so focused on your aches and pains, your wounds and everything else, that you become very immature, very limited in perception. What's happening right now in this movement that we've talked about earlier, you're feeling all these shifts and changes coming about. It's all to make room for the master, but it's also exposing the immaturities. It's exposing the places where you've been self-limiting in your awareness. And now it's opening up. And if you understand that, then it's not so frightening. If you allow it, you begin to realize why it's there and what's happening. But without that knowingness, It can be very disconcerting right now. And that's why, in particular, dreams right now are just all over the place. And just feelings that feelings that everything is changing and what's going on. Your immaturities are being exposed. The human doesn't particularly like to be told that they have a destiny. Not you, not your type. Other humans, yeah, they do, but you actually don't. You rebel against it. I'm not going to let anybody tell me what to do, kind of a mindset. But you've given yourself this opportunity for this guidance because as you have this kind of protection, and not quite the right word, but it's an assurance. You have an assurance policy in your own realization. What happens is you start developing, you start allowing in wisdom. I call it the master, but it's just wisdom, and you're allowing that into your life. And as you do now, you develop the maturity, the ability to open up, to perceive on a multiple variety of levels and awarenesses in your life. As you bring in the wisdom, you also bring in the maturity, and with the maturity, you start releasing the soul destiny. In other words, it doesn't need to keep you from going errant, falling off the road, or whatever you want to call it. Suddenly, that destiny is replaced by pure wisdom, pure, beautiful wisdom. And you break free of that soul destiny, or you let it go. It doesn't need to be there anymore. And suddenly you start to assume you start to bring in this whole, maturity into your life. Wisdom and human experience combined together. A whole new maturity, and that is what's happening right now. And it will be perfectly balanced to the level of the soul destiny, this thing that's your assurance that you're not going to get terribly distracted. As you bring in the wisdom, that level of that destiny is released. It's peeled away. It falls away. That's another thing that you're feeling right now in this falling away and the changes. And it's replaced by your wisdom now. I mean, your meaning the master in you. It's replaced by the wisdom. And in that, again, you cannot make mistakes. You cannot go wrong. It's an old human fear. I'm going to do the wrong thing. Right now, you cannot. You got a history of doing the wrong things, but right now you can't. You're in the protection mode, the assurance mode. Let's take a good deep breath with that and commune with that wisdom that's coming in. And one of the first wisdoms that you really start to feel into is just allowing. Allowing. That's what allows in more wisdom. That's it. It's really quite simple. Let's take a good deep breath with that and really feel into it. Before we go any further, let's replay the video you had at the beginning here.